welcome to the show. It's great seeing your work, so keep it flowing into us. It's your work that makes the show. We've got a fantastic guest this week, and another great show as well. And our guest is Lucy Sparrow, a textile artist living in London. Lucy uses felt and wool to create her work, dealing with issues around politics, consumerism, social exclusion, and gender of other subjects besides. So, Lucy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. These are great. I mean, I'm no expert with textiles or fabrics, but these are amazing pieces of work, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this in more detail. But before we do that, I mean, I like to find out more about you, and
Sure.
Tell us about your background and what you did and how you've got to where you are and so on.
So, I was born in Bath, and I went to school, left about 17 and went to Bath College, and that was probably like the best thing that ever happened to me.
Really?
It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It was like 2 years of having the most amazing fun, art-related fun in the world.
That's a lovely place as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's
it
really
is.
lovely.
It's pretty. It's historical, and that's at the university, of course. That's where you were. Where you
No,
studied.
I went to the local tech college.
Oh, right.
It was, City of Bath College, I think it's called
right,
now.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that place, but I've heard lots of good things about it.
No, it was absolutely great.
Yeah.
It's
So
a great
place. You went to uni, didn't you?
I went to uni for a year, but it wasn't for me.
No.
I think I was the kind of person that needed to forge my own way in it.
Right.
And,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, why was that? Do you value university?
I think that people make it a lot more compulsory and they put a lot more emphasis on it, and like kids needing to go to university, and when a lot of the time some kids they're not supposed to go to university. It doesn't work for them. And I found that when you're trying to teach art, the worst thing that you can do is trying to teach someone to do art like other people. And it wasn't ever anything I was interested in
So
doing.
from the art academic side of things, that's one of the reasons why. I mean, there's obviously the financial reason today why people don't go to university
Oh my
as well.
goodness!
So.
I mean, I went to university before those kicked in,
Right.
but my goodness, like now, I'd have no hope of going. Absolutely not at all. It's too expensive.
Yeah, it's a subject that we can't go into in great detail now, but yeah, it's you're right there. So I mean, how did you get into textiles then?
So I was always really interested in textiles because I was always like really interested in cuddly toys, like right from, obviously you are when you're a kid, but I had so many. I think at one point I had about 200 cuddly animals on my bed, and I realised that when I couldn't get those animals, I could sort of just make my own.
Right.
Like,
So you've kind of stumbled across it by making things and being inspired by who or
yeah,
what? Or?
One of the greatest artists that I find is like a massive influence in my work is Klaus Oldenburg. He made these massive, big sculptures and
fast food and
fast food. Sort of like there's a giant peg that's like in the middle of like New York City, and it's like the surreal aspect of something so big, something that plays with scale against the real world.
Is he the one that, I might have got this wrong, but he's not just on textiles, he does other things as well, doesn't he? The large kind of structures as well as fabrics out of other materials. Because there was one in America I'd seen of a giant shuttlecock, and I'm sure that was
That's the one.
outside the Kansas City Art Museum.
Yeah, he makes them. He's made some sort of like normal shaped, normal size. He's made a collapsed drum kit out of.
Yeah.
I think it was sort of collapsed PVC, and it's all sort of stuffed, and that looks very similar to my stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, big hard
I can see the inspiration. I know I can see what you're doing. I mean, a lot of people that go into this genre, I'm sure they look at his work. What about the politics, though? How did you get into that?
I think it was something that I was always super interested in, because I always had like really strong opinions about stuff, even when I was really little. And I kind of got frustrated with people having a sort of political opinion and not necessarily approaching it or sort of like shoving it down people's throats in a way that I didn't understand. So I wanted to make something that was a more like subtle approach to it. It's like, look at these wonderful fluffy things, but have you thought about this? And it sort of like creeps up from behind them and shows them a different way of changing their minds.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what this can do. I mean, all art in that way, but that's exactly, it's powerful. It speaks 1,000 words in one image and plays with people's heads a little bit, doesn't it, when they get something like that? I mean, look at the cuddly toy there. I mean, tell us about this, because that's intrigued me since you walked in. What are you doing with this banana?
So this little guy is Basil,
Right.
And Basil's one of 7 bananas that I've got, and I first got a cuddly banana when I was about 9.
Right.
And the original banana is 19 years old now, and he's at my mum's house, retired, because his nose fell off, he fell apart from love. So Basil goes everywhere with me, and he's like a great influence for my work. And I feel that when you grow up, there's a lot of pressure to sort of let go of all your childish things, childhood things that you enjoy. And I thought, I don't want to get rid of my animals that I love. I want to carry them around with me everywhere, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think, so if he ever leaves you, you can always say he's split, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I mean, you know, it's lovely. It reminds me of the guy, what's his name? The guy out of Snoopy.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown,
yeah.
Carrying his blanket around.
It's a constant companion, you're never alone.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, the art's important, especially this kind of art. So what about your exhibitions, Lucy? I mean, what are you know, what's coming up, or what are you doing, or what have you been involved in, I should say?
Oh my goodness, so last year was an insanely busy year. I did 14 shows, and one really good political thing that I did was a protest against the UK tar sands network, and it was about, there was this big summit in London at Canada House about how they're sort of going and taking the oil and all sorts of things to do with fracking. Right. And what I did was create a felt oil spill with all like dead animals and dead plants and fish and things like that. Right. And the politicians that were then walking into the summit to talk about this had to step over this beautifully made, glittery, knitted oil spill. And I think that, I hope that I touched a nerve there that is different from people holding up placards. It was...
I think so. I mean, I can see the power in that, and I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'd love to be involved in something like that. I think it's a great idea. We can talk more about that later on in the show. It's great. So, thanks, Lucy. So now let's go and take a look at a piece of your work. Keep it all coming into the usual email address and we'll get it screened soon. We're back with Lucy after the break. See you then. Welcome back. We're going to talk with Lucy some more, and later on we're going to be looking at videos on the importance of creativity. Now, Lucy has brought some work into the studio, so let's take a look at the work. It's great, isn't it, this stuff? We've got things here, we've got things on the table. Tell us more about this project. You were talking about the corner shop earlier. What is this?
So the corner shop is a project that's happening this summer in London, and basically I'm making a whole corner shop out of felt. And it's the biggest project I've done to date.
Wow. From
now until the 1st of August, I will be making everything that you find in a corner shop, from tins of beans, the cashier's till.
Right. So let me get this straight. It's a full size shop.
Yeah, a full size corner shop. Everything in there is going to be made of felt, from the ceiling, the walls, the floor, to everything on the shelves. We're going to have a pick and mix counter. And
you'll be able to walk in it and everything.
You can walk in and you can buy everything in the shop. You can fill your basket up like you're going in a corner shop.
That's hilarious. It's hilarious, but I can see the attraction and the seriousness of it as well. It's kind of a.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure. Tell us more about that in a second. But looking at the work on the table, these little bits and bobs we've got here. I mean, they're kind of cute characters, aren't they? But and they're going to live in this corner shop, as you say.
Yeah.
But what's the serious side behind the corner shop?
The serious side behind the corner shop is the decline of the British High Street.
Right.
I mean, when I was little, my first job was in a corner shop, like a village newsagent's.
Right.
And you don't get that so much anymore. You get a Tesco Metro, you get Spar, you get all sorts of, franchises of stuff, and it's like promoting an identical world, and there's no sort of individuality anymore, and independent businesses are dying.
You're drawing attention to the fact that there's life being sucked out of small towns and villages.
Absolutely.
In terms of shopping and
family businesses are just going,
yeah.
and it's heartbreaking. And I hope that with the corner shop, hopefully I can sort of highlight that more so than it has been already. I don't know how much it's going to help, but it sure well might sort of raise the issue.
Because I mean, these are great, aren't they? What's that? Snickies. And these obviously Prozac. I mean, what's the reason behind these little characters? Because they are like little characters, aren't they? They've got beaded eyes on there, as well as the meaning behind them.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to go through security with a couple of those, would you? Or I don't know.
I think they might have something to say about them. The grenades and the Prozacs were a way of making something that is ordinarily harsh and sort of harmful. I mean, Prozac is sort of meant to help, but it's something that's not necessarily associated with things that are all good. And grenades certainly
aren't. There's the addictive side of drugs and all that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely, and I wanted to make things, if something about like weapons and drugs, it's not the thing's fault themselves, it's sort of anthropomorphizing.
There's like a connection there, isn't there, between the
Absolutely.
two in that sense, yeah.
And I wanted to make it kind of like, hey, it's not these things, it's not the objects that are the problem, it's the cause.
Yeah.
It's not the symptom.
Yeah, that's great. I like them. I like the way you're playing with the symbolism in that way. So you're offering a message through something that is serious, but when you look at it like this, it's not so serious, but it gets people to think at the same time.
More approachable.
Makes it more approachable. Absolutely. What about the Oyster card up there then? I mean, I was told that there's a real Oyster card in that.
There is indeed.
You can go through the subway with it.
Yeah, that is my travel card, and I make lobster cards as well. They're orange and red. So
it's seen some action, this Oyster card, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit bobbly. I've had it for a couple of years, but it's standing up well.
So I mean, again, why? I mean, it might seem obvious to you, but explaining it to the viewers, the corner shop, the Oyster card, all these things coming together. Obviously, it's almost like you're building this secondary world, isn't it? Which is out of something that you love, which is the textiles, the fabric. It's a softer world, isn't it?
You're spot on.
Yeah.
What I want to create with this, I think that quite often the real world can be scary, and whereas maybe people retreat into more harmful substances to try and escape the sort of harsh reality of the world, I make my own little thing, and I think maybe sometimes I prefer to live in it, sometimes the real world's okay, and maybe merging the two is what is the great
Yeah, I
idea.
can see what you mean, because it is what you say. The world is quite daunting. I mean, artists have had this historical drive, throughout history. Artists have tried to deal with subjects that aren't so nice.
Yeah.
Some artists don't. And what you're doing in some ways is marrying two areas together, from the what isn't nice and then putting it in, you're fabricating in that. That's what I'm saying. So
Absolutely.
I love that. So how do you get your funding and stuff for all of this? I mean, what's going on there? Because it is quite a big project, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge project. So everything I've done before has been self-funded, but this corner shop, it was such a huge project, and it had such a kind of community idea behind it. What I wanted to do was crowdsourcing, which is, I started a Kickstarter campaign.
It's popular, isn't it now? Yeah.
It's amazing, and I wanted to raise £2,000 to start it off, and I think now it's up to 9,400.
Wow.
I mean, the response has been so overwhelming. I had no idea the power. I mean, it literally has been the power of the people making this, driving this, and there's still 2 weeks to go of it.
Yeah.
And the response has been incredible.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're going to see this thing.
It's going to happen,
yeah.
and it's due to every single person who pledged, and that's amazing. They made it happen. I mean, I'm making it, but
Right.
they've been the driving force.
Yeah. So your website is Sow Your Soul, is that
Yeah.
right? Sowyoursoul.com.
.co.uk.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a great title. I love that. Sow Your Soul. That's
It's it's the emotional side of stuff. It's like, when times are hard, you sow and you sew your life back together. You sew your soul back together.
Yeah, and it's the therapeutic side of art.
Absolutely.
That's the other message I get from the website.
Definitely.
Which is what art's about in many ways. It's about therapy.
It's a healer.
It's a healer, yeah. I mean, we haven't talked much about that on the shows yet, but I'm sure we will, and it's really important. I mean, if you engage in a creative practice of any kind,
Yeah.
you are kind of creating a great healing, not only within yourself, but with other people that interact with what you're doing. I love
There's
that.
a reason they do art therapy. It's a proven thing that works.
Yeah, I've read some great books on art therapy over the years, and I agree with you. It's fantastic. It's lovely. It's lovely work. I mean, we could talk about the detail. I love the microchips up there as well. That's another one, isn't it? That's that. So what's going on with the microchips? As in the microchips? Is that
yeah?
So, God, tell us something about that.
Well, that's a thing to do with scale as well. Quite often, there's no consistency in my work, but that's not necessarily a negative thing. Some things are real sized, some things are oversized.
Yeah.
Things are very rarely smaller than they're supposed to be. They're usually sort of exact or larger. And I think that is something to do with childhood. When you're little,
Oh, I see what
everything's
you
so
mean.
much
Yes.
bigger. The cream eggs used to be like, whoa, massive, and now you're like, oh, they're tiny.
It's true what you say. Yeah, everything was magnified. Something that would seem big that doesn't seem big at all now. No, I love it. I love the quality of it all. It's fantastic. Well, thanks, Lucy. That's really really nice. And so now let's go and see the second part from Leona, a teacher of coach of the arts, who's going to discuss with us why creativity is so important.
Today I'd like to talk to you about being creative. Now, I do lots of art and craft workshops, and I can guarantee that there will always be one adult that will say, I'm not creative. And it's really ironic because it ends up that they are actually really good at what they do. But what I'd like to talk to you about today is the fact that we are all creative. Now, you kind of tend to have people that say, I'm not creative, and then you ask them why, and they say, oh, because I can't draw. As if drawing was the only thing that makes someone creative. So the reasoning that I'd like to give for this is to do with the brain. Now, there was a theory developed in the 70s, which you may have heard of, about the right and left brain. The right brain being all about creativity and intuition and inspiration and the big picture. And the left brain being all about systematics, mathematics, and analytical sides of our being. And the whole theory discussed how that you are either predominantly one side of the brain or the other. So since then, that theory has kind of been a bit disproved. But there is something that's of real value within this theory that I still think we should talk about today. Now, in our left brain, we have a small, tiny pea-sized part of our brain which controls our identity and who we are. Now, there's been some really interesting discoveries about stroke survivors. And what happens with people who have a stroke, they often have it in their left side of the brain. And so their left side of the brain suddenly becomes deteriorated and their right side becomes elevated. And with these kind of victims, what we find out is that suddenly they become really open to the bigger picture. They be able to see everything that is around them. They feel really connected. And these are characteristics that are really strong of creativity. What we realise is that actually everyone is creative, because if we have that section of our brain that is to do with all those things that define what creativity is, then surely we are all creative. The trick is that we just need to understand how to wire our neural networks in our brain so that we can access these things more easily. So obviously creativity and creative processes really allow us to do that, and that's why I enjoy doing what I do so much. When I teach art and craft projects to people, I can see them relaxing, I can see them taking a moment back, not feeling so rushed, not feeling so controlling about what's going on in their lives. And they begin to get a sense of the bigger picture. They see things from outside of themselves. And this is such a great benefit to creativity. So I'd like to say to you today that you are creative, even if you don't think you are. I would like to encourage you to maybe pick up a pencil or pick up something that you've never picked up before, an instrument, or go for a walk, or just see things from a different perspective. If you can do that, then you've really accessed your creative mind. And the more creative people that we have, the more people we have accessing their creativity, the brighter and more beautiful this experience can be. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Wonderful. Creativity is such a benefit to our lives and a crucial part of our development. Now it's time for the gallery. Remember, keep that work coming in. It's been great having Lucy on the show, and you can check out her work at her website and her exhibitions at
sowyoursoul.co.uk.
Brilliant. So remember, keep all that work coming in. Maybe you have an interesting project going on in your area. Drop us a line. So thank you, Lucy. Thank you for coming in. It's been lovely to meet you, and we'll see you next week with more art. See you then.